Hey everyone, I'm Brian Zane. Welcome to my review of TLC, TATER TOTS Love Catsup. I mean, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2015. How would this show fare after a lackluster Survivor Series? I'm gonna go match by match, give you my thoughts, and we'll see how it pans out. First of all, I didn't look at the pre-show match, so that's not gonna be in the equation. So let's begin. Opening match for the tag titles in a triple tag team ladder match. It was the New Day, the Usos, and the Lucha Dragons, which may have very well been the match of the night. Honestly, great way to open the show. Personally, I think the main event gave this match a run for its money as far as a match of the night ranking overall. I'll get to that a little later, but for the most part, for most of this show, all I could think about as far as the best match of the show was this one. A lot of crazy spots, in particular the Salida del Sol off the top of one ladder through another one I thought was just insane. Xavier Woods on commentary was very entertaining. He's entertaining as always. His being involved in the finish I think was kind of funny. It was in a way predictable, but I think it was good because it made all the teams still looked good. In the end, the one gripe I have with this match, not this match in particular, just kind of like what I heard in the match, was the "This is awesome" chants. We heard it twice in this match. One in the first 5 minutes, and then a good 10 minutes went by before you heard it again. Then near the end, it came up again. When they chant that for at least one match per pay-per-view, how much of it is really awesome? You know, I feel they're kind of ruining the magic of that chant, in my opinion. But overall, I think it was a really great way to start the show. Everyone just kind of laid it out in the line. You know, it was kind of a follow that mentality. You know, again, it's one of the top contenders, if not the top contender for match of the night. Following that great match, you have Ryback and Rusev. What is it, the third match they've had in 3 weeks? Give me a break. Why is this on pay-per-view? You know, the one thing I'll say, I mean, the match itself was passable. I mean, it wasn't the greatest match in the world. Haas versus Haas doesn't always work well together. This was kind of a middle of the road. Not too great, but not too bad either. As far as, you know, the finish, I think it's, you know, it's the fourth or the fifth time this year where somebody passed out to the pain of the accolade. To me, it's so boring when that happens. It's kind of, again, if you think about the number of times in the pre-PG era history where you've seen that happen, where someone passes out to the pain of a submission instead of tapping out, you know, you can count on one hand the number of times that's ever happened previous, you know, to that. You know, you think maybe like Austin passing out in the sharpshooter at WrestleMania 13, Hulk Hogan passing out in the bear hug against Brock Lesnar on SmackDown, and that's really all I can think of. But this year alone with Rusev, he's made a bunch of people just pass out instead of tap out, which I think on the one hand you can say, oh, he's so powerful, but at the same time it makes him look kind of weak because all these faces, they gotta be protected. They can't tap out. Ooh, tapping out's bad if you're a face. No, it's not. I think it means you live to fight another day, you know, and you gave it your all. I think everyone passing out and not tapping out, I think it's just, it's very one-dimensional. I don't like when everyone does that. It's the fourth or fifth time at least this year we've seen that. Also, it was the third time in a row we saw, you know, Lana fake an injury in this match. How many times can you go to the well with that? I think that kind of flies in the face of the whole anti-violence to women thing. I think it's a very slippery slope to, you know, establishing this whole thing. Well, women are faking being assaulted, at least Lana is. So, you know, what are all women gonna do? You know, it's a, you know, this is the kind of the mentality that some wrestling fans can go to. And I think it's very dangerous what they're doing, especially when they're trying to push an anti-domestic violence mindset and philosophy on their show. So that's just one thing that really bugged me. But again, you know, that's just me kind of reading way too much into this stuff. Otherwise, you know, it was kind of a meh match. I really didn't want this on the show. U.S. Championship defended in a chairs match, Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger. This was a fine match. It was okay. There's just so little heat to it, I feel, just because Jack Swagger's been obscure for so long. You know, it was the first pay-per-view match I think he's had all friggin' year. I don't think the last time we saw him on pay-per-view was in 2014, which is pretty nuts to think about when he was fighting Rusev for the U.S. title. It's hard to believe that at one point Swagger was a world heavyweight champion and a contender for that title. He and Del Rio fought just a few years ago at WrestleMania for the title. Like, whoa, it's crazy to think how far he's fallen since then. Speaking of which, they sure got out of that Del Rio Coulter combo pretty quickly, in my opinion. Just a really weird pairing to begin with. I didn't really feel much of a chemistry with them going into it when they first had a debut together at Hell in a Cell. But again, match was fine. some silly spots in the match, like the ankle lock with the chair on his ankle. Like, that doesn't really do anything. It looked so stupid. I did like the story they told of Jack Swagger going for the Swagger bomb a few times in the match and finally nailing it near the end. That was really good storytelling, nice little payoff. Some of the chair shots were brutal in the back, especially in the end with Del Rio hitting a prone Swagger on the back all those times. See the bruises on his back. Looked really, really ugly. It's too bad there's just so little heat in this match. It's too bad there's just so little reason for me to care, as far as I'm concerned. I think Del Rio's time since he's been back has been kind of a take it or leave it thing. I mean, just from everything I've read and seen, I'm not really wowed by him anymore. At least when he was first around in WWE, he was treated as a big deal, and his character showed it. Now he's just kind of like everyone else, which is a recurring theme with everyone on the roster. But I think it was a serviceable match. The 8-man tag team table elimination match. It was the Wyatt family versus the ECW originals. I'm so sick of them bringing back the memory of ECW. The memory of ECW, between what WWE and TNA have done since 2001, the memory of ECW has lasted longer than ECW has. It's just ridiculous how much they keep trying to keep effing that chicken, so to speak, and keep bringing back ECW. It's just so weird, especially when you got guys, it's this whole old guy, young guy struggle when all these younger guys who could have spots on the card are being taken by Tommy Dreamer and Rhino, who's doing fine at NXT, but I think that's about as far as he should really be going at this point in his career. And the same with the Dudleys in a lot of ways. The Dudleys can still provide good stuff. Bubba Ray Dudley is still a great tag team competitor, good singles competitor, but it's just like, it's this weird thing where what more can you do to dig up the memory of ECW? Be that as it may, this was an entertaining match. I think for the Wyatts, this was a better match for them than last month at Survivor Series, that lackluster match with Undertaker and Kane, which is ironic considering the star power of that match compared to this one. But this match was much more entertaining. I thought again, speaking of weird spots that don't add anything to the match, when Tommy Dreamer hit Strowman with the cheese grater to the junk, he was wearing these thick pants. That's not going to hurt. It's going to hurt your hand more than anything else because it's exposed hand touching the thing. Whatever. It was so stupid. Bubba and Strowman, every time the camera went to them to show them fighting, they kept screwing up something. It was really awkward seeing these two fight for some reason. Bubba was telegraphing the trash can from a mile away, waiting to get punched in the face, and every time they fought with their fists, it just looked sloppy as hell. I don't know. I don't know how much of it had to do with Strowman being too green, or the two of them maybe just rushing stuff and not really meshing well. But there you have it. The lighter fluid spot definitely piqued my interest. I was like, whoa, this is interesting. I didn't know where they're going to go with this. And so it's a pity they didn't. I mean, obviously it's not PG to have the fire and everything, but it was kind of cool they teased it. It was just kind of a throwback to some of the more exciting stuff. I mean, it reminded me more actually of Foley and Edge at WrestleMania more than anything the Dudleys had done recently. But, it was what it was. It was an entertaining match. All of them got their stuff in. I think it was good for the Dudleys to get their heat back after what happened at Survivor. Not the Dudleys, the Wyatts, for them to get their heat back after what happened at Survivor Series. So for them, it was a good match. Intercontinental title match up next. Kevin Owens defending against Dean Ambrose in a really fun, competitive matchup. We've seen this one before, but this one still had more weight to it, I think, than last month's Survivor Series, because this one was for the Intercontinental title, and they've been pushing this narrative of Dean Ambrose, what's going to happen if he wins the championship. JBL, of course, railing, saying he'd be the worst champion ever. He'd look so bad for the company's image, and they were really doing that to death tonight. They did it a lot too when he was fighting against Seth Rollins for the WWE title earlier this year. And I think the point they got to it now with him, that narrative, it's like, okay, well, he has to win the title now because otherwise this narrative is getting really stupid and annoying. Also, another dead giveaway that he was going to win was the fact that Owens came out first despite being the champion, and he cut a promo before the match. Him coming out first especially was kind of a giveaway that he was losing the belt. That being said, the match was still really fun. I didn't really have a whole lot of notes for this particular spots in this match. I liked the fingertip rope break near the end. I thought that was really fun. I hadn't seen a rope break like that. It was such kind of a pussy heel thing to do, the fingertips. I thought that was pretty fun for Owens to do. I'm glad that Ambrose won the championship. I'm finally glad he got some recognition and some gold, because right now he hit, with the exception of Rollins being out and injured, he is third on the depth chart in terms of like what Shield members are getting placed in what part of the card. And it's really disappointing because he is one of the more interesting members of the Shield. So it's good that he finally has a belt, and he's, not just stealing the belt, and, maybe he'll defend it more than he did the U.S. Championship. We'll see about that. The one line I thought was funny was them saying how the lineage of the Intercontinental title just got stranger. I mean, you can't really get much stranger than when Goldust had it, so maybe they got to pick their words a little differently. But other than that, it was a fine match, and again, good on Dean Ambrose for getting that singles title win. The semi-main event, the Divas Championship match, Charlotte and Paige, aka who's the heel here? This is what they've done so far with this storyline is just the dumbest thing. I mean, they went way overboard in one direction last month at Survivor Series with mentioning Reed Flair. And if you want to hear what I said about that, go to my Survivor Series review. But, this match in particular, now they're doing this thing where Paige, who still acts very heelish, but more of a kind of sardonic, humorous way in a way, she's talking about how Charlotte is a cheater, and don't trust Charlotte because she's going to cheat to win. And then Charlotte does that, which technically makes Paige right, but they're still making Charlotte to be this kind of heel character, especially now that she's allied herself more with Ric Flair. So it's really confusing. I don't know who we're supposed to be cheering or booing for here. And Charlotte especially is definitely, it's obvious that Charlotte is becoming more of a full-fledged heel. She's definitely becoming more of the heel character that she was at NXT, and really what she should have been doing when she debuted on the main roster over the summer. The problem is they're going in this totally farcical almost direction that now that she's with her dad, she's becoming a Flair clone. This match to me, while better than what they did at Survivor Series, still I didn't care for it because it basically, to me, looked like two female wrestlers doing a standard paint-by-numbers Flair match with all the different spots. I mean, everything, including the chops. The chops were there, too. They had the Flair flop, they had the figure four, they had the strutting, they had the knee drop. I mean, it was obvious what they were trying to do. I think it's a detriment to Charlotte that where in NXT, they walked that line. They made her do Flair-ish stuff, but they didn't make her a Flair clone. And now I think they're going to make it really one-dimensional in that regard and just make her totally be like Flair, which I don't think is good for her ultimately. I think she needs to try and be more of her own character with some Flair influence thrown in. Charlotte goes over with some blatant, obvious, you can see it from a mile away, heel chicanery from Flair and Charlotte. And of course, they're doing more of this slow burn, but it's obvious that she's turning heel, so why waste your time building to it? Heel turn for Charlotte. So we'll see where this goes. It's main event time, the TLC match for the world title between Sheamus and Roman Reigns. But first, since this is the month of Festivus, let us deal with our airing of the grievances, talking about how this match has been built up to this point. First of all, let's talk about Sheamus. I think he's been very inconsistently booked, even as champion, because one minute he's cracking jokes and he's being silly and goofy, and then the next we're trying to buy him as this serious, angry man, this angry, vicious fighter. It's what they were doing with Seth Rollins too, if you can remember when he was a champion, because on one hand he was a sniveling coward, but at the same time he was a devious, dastardly heel. And like the fact that they're so inconsistent with how they're booking their champions, it makes it difficult to try and feel one way or the other for him, really. Is he a funny heel champion or is he a serious heel champion? You can't have him be both, really. You gotta have one formula. And then when you talk about his League of Nations group, I like the idea of the League of Nations, I just don't like the execution of it, because with the exception of Del Rio, everyone in the group has been kind of jobbing up to this point, up till their creation. To give you an idea of how they feel about King Barrett as part of the group, not only was he not booked to wrestle tonight, he also, spoiler alert, was not involved in the run-in at the end of this match. Meanwhile, looking at Roman Reigns, again, we've talked about how he's been booked and how they try to make him John Cena 2.0 and how it's not working. They totally castrated him the night after Survivor Series, where he stole the belt from Sheamus and then just gave it back to the Authority immediately without any kind of, struggle. I thought that was totally made him look like such a pussy, honestly. Like, how can the fans get behind this guy who so willingly acquiesces to the Authority like that? So he's climbing this uphill battle. Now, Sheamus and Roman Reigns are both fine workers, and I will say that this match was very good, but they've just been given a lot of crap to work with in the character development department. And need I forget, let's talk about tater tots. I mean, what can I say about that? It's tater tots. Tater tots in a promo. It's absolutely madness that they would go for this in 2015. You know, I don't know what else I can say about that. But let's talk about the match itself. Again, it was a very physical match. It was fun to watch. You know, it was exciting throughout. Both guys got their stuff in. It wasn't taking turns fighting. This was like a fight. It looked very convincing. I liked it a lot. Very physical. It gets repetitive when you see all the chair shots just to like the arms and the back and the stomach, which is what you saw a lot of in the chair match earlier for the U.S. title. Since they've banned headshots, then, you know, it makes it very boring almost to see chair shots. You kind of ruin the magic of chair shots when you see them so much, especially in this show. It kind of dilutes their impact and their oomph. I think that the Cena chants, they had the dueling Cena chants right at the beginning of this match, I think made Vince McMahon, you know, cackle with glee when he heard that. We'll see where Cena fits into this title picture as we get further along. Yeah, but again, a really good match. Again, I think it challenges the opener for match of the night. They were both great in different ways. I think the tag title match was a very high-paced, fast-paced, you know, high-flying style of match for the ladder element. Meanwhile, this one was just more of a knockdown, drag-out fight. So depending on what styles you like, what you like to appreciate more as a wrestling fan, those two I think were the contenders for match of the night. Sheamus going over with help from the League of Nations and the run-in, and then the brogue kick, and then Sheamus grabbing the belt. So yeah, League of Nations 3-0 at TLC. I don't think they really brought that up in the commentary, but that was how it happened. Maybe they'll talk about it on Raw. But yeah, I think what people are going to talk about more than this match is the stuff after it, when Roman Reigns just annihilated not only the League of Nations with the chair, he also annihilated Triple H. That was the bigger moment. That got the bigger pop, and it got people chanting, "Thank you, Roman." So again, it was a great moment that Reigns beat up Triple H, but the whole time I was going, why? Why is he doing this? I mean, in a way, Triple H is responsible for Roman Reigns having his current struggles chasing the title now because of what happened at Survivor Series and a little bit more going into TLC. But Triple H did nothing wrong on this night. He wasn't responsible for Reigns losing the match. So I thought that Reigns beating up Triple H, while fun, at the same time it was kind of unwarranted, honestly, from a pure kayfabe standpoint. You know, again, it was a great look, though, for Roman Reigns. He looked like the badass he should be at all times. Why they waited this long to pull the trigger on that, I have no idea. This is the most vulnerable I think Triple H has ever looked in the last 10 or 15 years, which is amazing that he made Roman Reigns look that good with all the beating he was getting. The one thing I'm kind of dreading now is we're going to see more angry, yelling Stephanie McMahon on TV, which, you know, is just so much fun to watch, right? Roman Reigns got his heat back in a big way. It showed that he could have, like, the anger and the emotion, you know? It's like, this is a guy who's been screwed for so long, and he finally snaps. I thought it was very refreshing to see him act so brutally toward everyone that got in his way. Again, I would like to see more of this. I would like to see more of the angry, you know, just untamed Roman Reigns just going to beatdown mode on everyone in his path and like not giving a crap about it, not doing the tater tots thing and just being relentless. Why don't we see more of that? Come on, let's make it happen. That's a Roman Reigns I can get behind. Overall, I'm going to grade this show a C+/B- kind of grade. There were some bright spots of this show. There was the opener, the tag titles, there was the main event. The Intercontinental Championship match was a lot of fun. The U.S. Championship match really exceeded my low expectations. I think Jack Swagger really kind of showed his A game in this match for a guy who hasn't been really seen, hasn't been very exposed lately in the last year or so. I think this is kind of his biggest shine moment of 2015. But then you had stuff like the Ryback Rusev match, which I don't think anyone paid to see. And you've got the women's match, which, you know, it's so convoluted now when it comes to character development. I don't know what's worth following with that anymore. So you've got the bright spots, but you also have these other things weighing it down. Overall, I'd have to give it the B- grade. I think the biggest difference between this and Survivor Series was with Survivor Series, you had a lot of high expectations as to what was going to happen because of all the chaos with injuries. So maybe anything could happen. And then there was the whole hype with The Undertaker, and you're kind of hoping something cool happens with that. And then that wound up being such a huge letdown. And now with TLC and the build of that, I think people just didn't care. I think people were just so jaded and frustrated with what had happened at Survivor Series and in the weeks following it with how they've been building their stars. And this match, this show, I think kind of exceeded the low expectations. So yeah, I have to go with a B- in this one. Again, better than Survivor Series, much lower expectations, helping boost the grade, help boosting the quality of the show, in my opinion. Let me know what you thought of TLC in the comments section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.